Picture a massive square in the heart of ancient China, year 1420 AD. The Forbidden City, newly completed under Emperor Yongle, stands as the most fortified palace complex ever built. Golden roofs gleam under the morning sun. 100,000 citizens gather for the emperor's grand ceremony, surrounded by crimson walls 30 feet high. Scholars in silk robes debate philosophy. Imperial guards stand motionless in formation. Suddenly, the sky tears open with a mechanical roar never heard in the Middle Kingdom. 3 massive iron birds, helicopters from an unknown future, descend like dragons of steel. The crowd freezes in absolute terror. The mandate of heaven is breaking. The helicopters unleash 50 armored figures onto the sacred ground. Vikings from 9th century Scandinavia, transported by fate's twisted hand to this impossible mission. The rotors spin one final time and vanish into the blue horizon. No reinforcements, no explanations, no time travel paradoxes, just a pure hypothetical scenario of total warfare. The mission: conquer the Ming Dynasty Empire in exactly 100 days. Comment below right now. Could 50 Nordic berserkers actually conquer the most advanced civilization in the world? Because what I'm about to reveal will shock you about the real power of warrior culture versus massive empire. The Viking arsenal of destruction. The 50 Vikings hit the marble ground with a thunderous crash. Their appearance alone strikes terror. Each stands over 6 feet tall, covered in chainmail armor that gleams like dragon scale. Blonde beards braided with iron rings, blue war paint across savage faces. These aren't men. They're walking nightmares from the frozen north. Primary weapon: Danish axes, 4-foot handles topped with crescent blades sharp enough to split silk in midair. One swing decapitates 3 men. Battle-tested swords forged in pattern welding, flexible steel that bends but never breaks. Each Viking carries 2. A long sword for open combat, a short sayaxe for close quarters killing. The ranged advantage: composite longbows from captured Hungarian craftsmen, pulling 120 pounds of force, firing arrows 400 yards. Each Viking carries 40 arrows, iron-tipped and designed to punch through Chinese lacquered armor. 5 Vikings specialize as archers, creating a rain of death from distance. The shock weapons: Norse fire, a primitive napalm made from pine resin, animal fat, and sulfur. They have 30 clay pots of this hellish mixture. Once ignited, it burns on water, sticks to skin, and cannot be extinguished. The Chinese have never seen anything like it. Close combat brutality: round wooden shields reinforced with iron boss, designed not just for defense but as bludgeoning weapon. Vikings bash with shield edges, breaking jaws and crushing skulls. They fight in a formation called the Svinfylking, or boar's head, a wedge that penetrates enemy lines like a spear through silk. The supply pallet crashes down. 5,000 additional arrows, 200 pounds of Norse fire ingredients, 100 days of salted fish and hardtack sealed in waterproof barrels, 50 backup weapons, iron tools for fortification building, primitive maps of China stolen from Venetian traders, medical supplies, including Viking herbal remedies and cauterization irons, and something terrifying: 30 pounds of concentrated berserker mushrooms, psychoactive fungi that turn already savage warriors into unstoppable killing machines who feel no pain and fear no death. Tell me in the comments, does this arsenal sound capable of toppling an empire of millions? Because the enemy they face makes Rome look like a village. The Dragon Empire, an unstoppable force. The Ming Dynasty isn't just a kingdom. It's a civilization that has existed for thousands of years, refined warfare to an art form, and commands resources beyond Viking comprehension. The Forbidden City alone covers 180 acres with 980 buildings. Beijing's walls stretch 15 miles around, 40 feet high, 60 feet thick at the base, impossible to breach. The Ming military: 1 million soldiers across the empire, 100,000 stationed in and around Beijing, 10,000 elite Imperial guards within the Forbidden City itself. These aren't peasant conscripts, they're professional warriors trained from childhood in kung fu, weapons mastery, and tactical warfare. Chinese weapons technology, gunpowder weapons, primitive but effective cannons that launch explosive shells 500 yards, fire lances that spray burning gunpowder like flamethrowers, repeating crossbows that fire 10 bolts in 15 seconds, poison-tipped arrows using herbs unknown to Europeans. The Chinese invented gunpowder 500 years before this moment. Chinese tactical advantages. They know every street, every alley, every secret passage in Beijing. They have carrier pigeons for instant communication across the empire. They have detailed maps and extensive spy networks. They understand siege warfare, having defended against Mongol hordes for centuries. The terrain advantage. Beijing is designed specifically to be unconquerable. Multiple walls create layers of defense. Moats surround key structures. Gates can be sealed with iron bars weighing tons. Granaries hold enough food to feed 100,000 people for 3 years. Even if Vikings enter the city, they'd be lost in a maze designed to confuse invaders. Comment below, knowing these impossible odds, would you take this mission if you were a Viking warrior? Your answer reveals whether you have berserker courage or civilian caution. Day 1. The ceremony becomes carnage. The moment the 50 Vikings touch ground, chaos erupts. The 100,000 citizens at the ceremony stampede in terror. The iron birds, the foreign demons, the breaking of cosmic order. It's too much for minds unprepared. 500 Imperial guards in formation, carrying spears and shields, advance to capture these strange intruders. The Vikings don't wait for diplomacy. Their leader, Bjorn Ironside, a grizzled warrior with one eye and 30 years of raiding experience, roars the order. Odin demands blood. Form the boar's head. The 50 Vikings instantly configure into a wedge formation, Bjorn at the point. They charge directly at the 500 guards. The Chinese, expecting these barbarians to be intimidated by their numbers, aren't prepared for the Viking mentality. When outnumbered, attack harder. The collision is apocalyptic. Bjorn's Danish axe swings in a horizontal arc, beheading 3 guards simultaneously. The guards behind him stumble over the corpses. The Viking wedge punches through the formation like a spear through paper. Chinese spears thrust at Viking shields, but the shields are angled to deflect. Viking swords flash under the sun, each stroke calculated for maximum efficiency. These aren't wild barbarians. They're sophisticated killers who've perfected warfare through 300 years of raiding the most defended monasteries and castles in Europe. Within 5 minutes, 180 Imperial guards lie dead or dying. The formation breaks. The survivors flee in absolute terror, screaming, "Guy! Guy! Demons!" The ratio is devastating. 180 Chinese dead, 0 Vikings killed, 3 Vikings with minor wounds. But Bjorn knows the cost. That brief battle used significant energy. They're 50 men in a city of millions. Every fight must end quickly, or they'll be overwhelmed by exhaustion. He shouts to his warriors, "We don't hold ground. We strike like lightning and vanish like smoke. This is how Vikings survive impossible odds." The survivors scatter into Beijing's maze of streets. Emperor Yongle, receiving reports of the attack, summons his generals. Foreign devils with magic weapons have desecrated the ceremony. Capture them alive. I want them displayed in cages as warning to all who challenge the mandate of heaven. Day 2. Ghosts in the Hutongs. The Vikings abandon the open square, melting into Beijing's narrow alleyways called Hutongs. These cramped passages between traditional courtyard homes are perfect for small unit tactics. The Chinese numerical advantage means nothing when only 3 men can fight abreast. The Vikings split into 5 teams of 10. Their strategy isn't conventional warfare, it's asymmetric terror. They're not trying to hold territory, They're trying to break the Empire's psychological will. Team 1, led by Bjorn, targets the granary. Beijing's food security is its strength. The Vikings infiltrate the grain storage complex at night, kill the guards silently with knives, and light the Norse fire. The flames spread rapidly, feeding on mountains of stored wheat. By morning, enough food to feed 50,000 people for 6 months is ashes. Team 2, led by Ragnar the Red, attacks the Imperial treasury, not to steal gold, but to burn it. They break through wooden doors using axes, slaughter the guards, and melt golden artifacts using Norse fire. The psychological impact is devastating. Chinese citizens watching their empire's wealth literally melting before their eyes. Team 3 focuses on infrastructure. They sabotage the complex system of aqueducts, bringing fresh water into the Forbidden City. They poison wells with animal corpses. They collapse bridges using controlled demolition techniques Vikings learned from raiding fortified monasteries. Team 4, the terror specialists, assassinate government officials. They scale walls like spiders, enter homes through windows, and execute 12 senior bureaucrats in their beds. They leave Viking symbols carved into the bodies. The message is clear. No one is safe. The Empire cannot protect you. Team 5, the archers, take elevated positions on rooftops and rain arrows on military patrols. They fire, relocate, and fire again from different angles. The Chinese guards don't know where attacks are coming from. They start fearing every rooftop, every shadow. By dawn of day 3, Beijing is in chaos. Citizens riot in the streets demanding protection. Merchants flee the city with their goods. Emperor Yongle is furious. He orders 10,000 soldiers to hunt down the 50 Viking, offering a fortune in silver for each Viking head. Comment below. Is this terror tactic brilliant strategy or dishonorable warfare? Because your answer reveals your understanding of asymmetric combat. Day 5. The Trap at the Temple of Heaven. Emperor Yonglu's generals develop a plan. These barbarians are too mobile. We cannot catch them in the Hutongs. We must draw them to us. They announce that the emperor himself will perform a sacred ceremony at the Temple of Heaven, Beijing's most holy site. It's bait. The Vikings know it's a trap. But Bjorn also knows something crucial. If they can capture Emperor Yongle, the entire empire's command structure collapses. It's worth the risk. He gathers all 50 Vikings for a war council. Brothers, we came here to do the impossible. We've survived 5 days against a 1,000,000-man empire. We've killed 800 Chinese soldiers and lost only 1 Viking, Olaf, who died from infected wounds. But we're running low on supplies. Our Norse fire is half depleted. Our arrows are at 60%. We have 2 choices. Run for the coast and try to reach Viking longships we'll never find, or strike at the dragon's head. I say we take the emperor. The Vikings roar approval. They prepare for the most audacious raid in military history. 50 men attacking a ceremony guarded by 5,000 Imperial guards, attempting to capture the most protected man in the world. The plan is surgical. 10 Vikings, including Bjorn, will disguise themselves as Chinese merchants and infiltrate the ceremony crowd. They'll carry concealed weapons beneath robes. The other 40 Vikings will position around the temple perimeter with bows ready. The ceremony begins at noon. Emperor Yongle, wearing golden robes, ascends the marble stairs to the circular altar. 5,000 guards form a human wall around him. Drums thunder. Gongs crash. The emperor begins his ritual prayers to heaven. Bjorn, hidden in the crowd wearing a stolen robe, gives the signal. A wolf howl that echoes across the temple grounds. The 40 Viking archers unleash simultaneously. 40 arrows fly in perfect arcs, targeting specific guards that Bjorn identified earlier as key officers. 30 guards fall with arrows in throats and eyes. The formation wavers for 3 crucial seconds. That's all the Vikings need. The 10 disguised Vikings throw off their robes, revealing chainmail and weapons. They charge the stairs in the boar's head formation. Chinese guards try to close ranks, but the Vikings are already inside their perimeter. Danish axes swing in coordinated patterns, cutting through silk and flesh with equal ease. Blood flows down the marble steps. The Emperor's bodyguards, elite warriors sworn to die protecting him, engage the Vikings in desperate hand-to-hand combat. This is where Viking superiority in close combat shows. Each Viking has trained since childhood in personal combat. They've raided across Europe for decades. These 10 Vikings are the equivalent of special forces operators. The Chinese bodyguards are skilled, but they're defending. Vikings are attacking. And attackers who don't fear death always have the advantage. In 90 seconds of brutal combat, 40 more guards lie dead. The Vikings reach the Emperor. Bjorn grabs Yongle by the throat. Axe raised. "Call off your guards or I paint this temple with your blood." A translator shouts the message in Chinese. The Emperor, shocked but maintaining dignity, raises his hand. The guards freeze. Bjorn binds the Emperor's hands with rope, throws him over his shoulder like a sack of grain, and the Vikings fight their way back down the stairs. The 40 archer Vikings unleash covering fire, creating a corridor of death. Any guard who advances dies with an arrow through the face. The Vikings extract with their prize, melting back into Beijing's maze of streets before the massive Chinese army can organize a pursuit. Comment if you're shocked that this plan actually worked, because the next 30 days will determine if this victory becomes conquest or catastrophe. Day 7. The Empire bends its knee. The Vikings hold Emperor Yongle in a fortified position, an abandoned Buddhist monastery on Beijing's outskirts that they've transformed into a fortress. They've barricaded the gates with furniture and debris. Archers position on the walls. It's defensible, but not permanently. Bjorn interrogates the Emperor through the translator. "Here's your situation, Emperor. Your guards couldn't protect you. Your walls couldn't stop us. Your million-man army couldn't find us. We are 50 Vikings who've made your empire look weak. Now you negotiate. Or we kill you and let the empire tear itself apart fighting over succession." Emperor Yongle, despite being captive, maintains his imperial composure. "You are skilled warriors, but you cannot hold Beijing. You cannot govern China. You cannot even leave this city alive. What exactly do you want?" Bjorn grins. "Smart Emperor. We want 3 things. First, you order every garrison in China to stand down and acknowledge Viking authority. Second, you hand over 1 million taels of silver as tribute. Third, you provide safe passage for all Vikings to return home with our treasure. Do this, and we return you to your throne. Refuse, and we execute you publicly." The Emperor considers. He knows Bjorn is right about succession war. If he dies without clear succession, the empire could fracture into civil war. But he also knows the Vikings cannot actually govern China. They're 50 men. Even if every Chinese soldier stood down, local governors would rebel within days. "I counteroffer," the Emperor says. "I will give you your silver. I will give you safe passage to the coast where ships will take you anywhere you desire. But I will not order my army to stand down. That would be suicide for both of us. My generals would rebel against such an order. Kill you, kill me, and seize power. Be practical, Viking. Take the wealth and the glory. You've already accomplished the impossible." Bjorn looks at his fellow Vikings. They've been gone from Scandinavia for months, transported by supernatural means they don't understand. They have no way home except through Chinese cooperation. They have enough silver to make every Viking a rich man. And they have the greatest story ever told. 50 Vikings brought the Ming Emperor to his knees. "We accept," Bjorn says. "But know this, Emperor. We keep you hostage until we're safely on ships. If your generals try to attack us during our journey to the coast, you die first. Over the next 20 days, an agreement is formalized. The Vikings will escort the Emperor to the coastal city of Tianjin. Chinese officials will provide 1 million taels of silver, horses, supplies, and ocean-going vessel. Upon the Vikings boarding their ships, the emperor goes free. But not everyone in China wants this deal. Regional warlords see the emperor's capture as proof of weakness. The imperial court is divided. Some generals want to attack the Vikings regardless of the emperor's safety. Tensions rise toward inevitable confrontation. Day 30. The March of Legends. The Vikings begin their journey to the coast, a 100-mile trek through hostile territory. They travel in a tight formation, Emperor Yongle bound and gagged in the center. Chinese officials provide 50 horses, food, and navigational guides. But along the route, accidents happen. Bridges mysteriously collapse just before the Vikings cross. Arrows from unknown shooters fly from forests. Ambushes occur nightly. Clearly, some Chinese factions are trying to kill the Vikings and blame it on bandits. The Vikings respond with extreme violence. Every ambush results in 20 dead Chinese for every arrow fired. Every collapsed bridge results in the Vikings burning a nearby village. They send a message: attack us, and innocents die. We have nothing to lose. The Chinese civilians, caught between Viking brutality and their own military's recklessness, begin protesting in the streets. Release the emperor. Stop the war. We want peace. Public pressure builds on the military to let the Vikings leave. By day 50, the Vikings reach Tianjin. The port city is heavily militarized. 20,000 Chinese soldiers surround the harbor, but they don't attack. The emperor is still hostage. 3 large Chinese trading junks are prepared for the Vikings, stocked with supplies for a voyage to wherever they choose to go. The silver is loaded. 1 million tael, enough to buy a small kingdom. The Vikings board the ships, weapons ready, expecting treachery at any moment. Emperor Yongle is the last to be released. Bjorn cuts his bonds and shoves him toward the dock. Remember this day, Emperor. 50 Vikings conquered your empire, not with armies, but with courage, strategy, and absolute refusal to accept defeat. You call yourselves the Middle Kingdom, the center of the world. But today, you learned that barbaric warriors from the frozen north are your equals. The emperor, rubbing his wrists, responds with dignity. You are not my equals, Viking. You are superior warriors. I acknowledge this, but you will never govern. Warriors conquer. Administrators govern. You lack the patience for the second. Go home with your silver and your story. You've earned both. The ships sail. The Vikings roar victory chants that echo across the harbor. They've survived 50 days in the heart of the enemy empire and emerged victorious, against all odds, against all logic, through sheer Viking ferocity. Comment below. Do you think this was victory or just survival? Because the answer depends on how you define conquest. 3 possible endings. The Viking legacy. Now let me show you the 3 ways this story ends, depending on specific decisions made during the campaign. Ending 1. The legendary return, 60% probability. The Vikings sail home to Scandinavia with their treasure and their tale. They're received as legendary heroes. Songs are written about the 50 who conquered the Middle Kingdom. The story spreads across Europe. Viking raids increase in boldness, inspired by the proof that no empire is unconquerable. In China, Emperor Yongle fortifies the empire's defenses and creates specialized anti-barbarian military units trained in Viking tactics. The incident becomes a national shame that motivates Chinese military innovation. Ironically, both civilizations grow stronger from the encounter. Ending 2. The diplomatic revolution, 25% probability. The Vikings, impressed by Chinese civilization, don't return home. Instead, they negotiate permanent settlement in a remote Chinese province. They become military advisors to local warlords, teaching Viking tactics in exchange for land and titles. Over generations, Viking DNA mixes with Chinese. a unique hybrid culture emerges, combining Nordic martial traditions with Chinese philosophy. Some historians claim certain Chinese martial arts show Viking influence in their aggressive, forward-driving techniques. Ending 3. The tragic betrayal, 15% probability. As the Viking ships sail away, Chinese war junks pursue them under secret orders from hardline generals. A naval battle erupts 100 miles from shore. The Vikings fight ferociously, but are outnumbered 10-1 at sea, where they have no advantage. All 50 Vikings die in the battle, taking 500 Chinese sailors with them. The silver sinks to the ocean floor. Emperor Yongle, learning of the betrayal, executes the generals responsible, but it's too late. The Vikings are gone. The story survives only in Chinese military record, classified as dangerous information that could inspire future invasion. Tell me which ending you believe is most likely based on human nature and historical patterns. 6. Fatal decision that shaped destiny. Throughout this 50-day campaign, 6 critical choices determined whether Vikings achieved legendary victory or tragic death. Let me reveal them. Decision 1. Attack or negotiate on day 1. When the Vikings landed, they could have tried diplomacy. Instead, they attacked immediately, establishing dominance through violence. This choice set the psychological tone, but it also made peaceful resolution nearly impossible. Alternative. If they had captured some guards alive and offered peaceful trade, they might have avoided becoming hunted criminals. But would Chinese forces have taken them seriously without demonstration of martial superiority? Decision 2. Terror tactics versus honorable warfare. The Vikings chose to burn granaries, poison wells, assassinate officials in their beds. These terror tactics were effective, but created permanent enemies. Alternative. If they had fought only military targets and spared civilians, they might have gained Chinese civilian support. But would that have been enough to offset their numerical disadvantage? Decision 3. Capture or kill the emperor. When they captured Emperor Yongle, they kept him alive as leverage. Alternative, if they had executed him publicly, they would have sent maximum terror message but lost all negotiating power. The empire's generals would have united in revenge rather than dividing in political uncertainty. Keeping the emperor alive was the correct strategic choice. Decision 4. Accept the deal or demand total surrender. When the emperor offered silver and safe passage, the Vikings could have demanded total surrender of the empire. Alternative, if they had demanded China submit to Viking rule, they would have been slaughtered. There's no way 50 men govern a nation of millions. Taking the realistic deal was wisdom, not weakness. Decision 5. Execute traitors or show mercy. During the journey to the coast, the Vikings could have executed every Chinese guide or soldier who showed signs of treachery. Instead, they used calculated violence, only retaliating against actual attacks. Alternative. Executing everyone preemptively would have turned all Chinese against them. Measured response kept the civilian population neutral. Decision 6. Leave or stay in China. Upon reaching the coast, Vikings could have attempted to establish a permanent kingdom in China. Alternative, staying would have required generations of warfare. Leaving with the treasure and honor was the Viking way. Raid and retreat. Never occupy permanently. Comment which decision you think was most critical to Viking survival. The 10 lessons for your impossible battles. This isn't just a story about ancient warfare. It's a blueprint for facing impossible odds in modern life. Let me translate Viking tactics into wisdom you can use today. Lesson 1. When outnumbered, strike first and strike hard. Vikings didn't wait to be attacked. They attacked immediately to establish psychological dominance. In your life battles, whether business competition, legal disputes, or personal challenges, the first aggressive move often determines the entire conflict's tone. Passivity invites exploitation. Aggression demands respect. Lesson 2. Asymmetric warfare beats direct confrontation. Vikings knew they couldn't fight the Chinese army head-on, so they used terror, mobility, and unpredictability. When you face a stronger opponent, competing on their terms guarantees defeat. Change the rules. Fight where you're strong and they're weak. Make them fight your battle, not theirs. Lesson 3. Capture the head and the body follows. By capturing Emperor Yongle, Vikings bypassed the need to defeat 1,000,000 soldiers. Identify the critical pressure point in any system. In business, it's key decision makers. In organizations, it's influential leaders. In personal challenges, it's the core belief or habit driving everything else. Attack the head. Lesson 4. Every resource is finite, even courage. Vikings tracked their arrow count, their Norse fire supply, their food reserves. They knew that even berserker courage runs out. In your challenges, audit your resources honestly. Time, energy, money, social capital. Deploy them strategically, not recklessly. Sustainability matters more than intensity. Lesson 5. Reputation is a weapon. The Vikings' fearsome reputation did half their fighting for them. Chinese soldiers hesitated before engaging because they feared Viking savagery. Build a reputation in your field as someone who cannot be intimidated, who always delivers, who never quits. That reputation becomes armor and weapon simultaneously. Lesson 6. Know when to take the deal. Vikings could have fought to the death for honor. Instead, they took the silver and left. Recognizing when you've achieved maximum realistic gain requires wisdom. Ego wants total victory. Wisdom takes substantial victory and lives to fight another day. The Vikings who know when to retreat are the ones who survive to become legend. Lesson 7. Turn your disadvantages into advantages. Vikings were outnumbered 20,000 to 1. They turned that into an advantage by becoming impossible to find, moving through the city like ghosts. What perceived weakness can you reframe as hidden strength? Small companies are more nimble than corporations. Individuals can pivot faster than institutions. Use your scale as advantage, not excuse. Lesson 8. Control the narrative. The Vikings ensured their story would be told by sending messages, leaving symbols, and ultimately negotiating their own legend. Control how your battles are perceived. Document your wins. Share your struggles strategically. The story people tell about you is often more important than the objective fact. Lesson 9. Fear is a choice, not a condition. Vikings faced impossible odds daily and chose courage over fear. You face overwhelming challenges too: financial pressure, health crises, relationship disasters, career obstacles. The Vikings teach that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to act despite fear. Your feelings don't have to control your action. Lesson 10. Immortality through legendary action. These 50 Vikings achieved something that echoes through centuries. They attempted the impossible with total commitment. You won't literally live forever, but you can create impact that outlasts your lifespan. Take the impossible challenge. Make the audacious attempt. Even if you fail, legendary effort creates legendary stories, and stories never die. Comment which of these 10 lessons speaks most powerfully to your current life situation. The real battle. Mindset versus empire. Here's the deepest truth this story reveals. The Vikings didn't actually defeat the Chinese military. They defeated Chinese assumptions. The Ming dynasty believed they were unconquerable. The Vikings believed nothing was unconquerable. That psychological gap determined everything. The Chinese had superior numbers, technology, resources, and home field advantage, but they fought from a defensive mindset, protecting what they had. The Vikings fought from an offensive mindset, taking what they wanted. Defense conserves. Offense conquers. The Vikings had nothing to lose, which made them terrifyingly dangerous. This same battle happens in your mind every day. Your empire mindset says, protect what I have. Don't risk what I've built. Play it safe. Preserve the status quo. Your Viking mindset says, Risk everything. Attempt the impossible. Attack life rather than defend against it. Die gloriously rather than live safely. Which mindset is controlling your decisions? Because that choice determines whether you build empire or become Viking legend. The modern application. You're 50, vers they're millions. You're facing your own impossible mission right now. Maybe you're one person trying to disrupt an entire industry. Maybe you're a small team competing against massive corporations. Maybe you're fighting a health battle where doctors give you terrible odds. Maybe you're escaping poverty that has trapped your family for generations. You are the 50 Vikings. Your challenge is the Chinese Empire. The question is, will you fight like a Viking or surrender like everyone expects? Here's your Viking battle plan. First, attack immediately. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't prepare endlessly. Vikings struck day one. You strike today. Boldness creates momentum. Hesitation creates doubt. Second, fight asymmetrically. Don't compete where the empire is strongest. Find the angle they're not defending. Every empire has vulnerabilities. Every system has weak points. Your job is finding and exploiting them without mercy. Third, capture the emperor. Identify the one thing that, if you controlled it, would flip your entire situation. For Vikings, it was the emperor. For you, it might be a key relationship, a critical skill, a strategic partnership, or a mindset shift. Focus everything on capturing that one thing. Fourth, track your resources brutally. Vikings counted every arrow. You count every dollar, every hour, every relationship, every burst of energy. Deploy resources strategically, not emotionally. Waste is death when you're outnumbered. Fifth, build your legend as you go. Document your journey. Share your battles. Create the narrative of your impossible mission. When you win, you'll want people to know the full story. When you die trying, you'll want the legend to inspire others. Sixth, know when to take the deal. If you achieve 80% of your impossible goal, take it and live to fight another day. Total victory is rare. Substantial victory is achievable. Don't let perfectionism destroy good enough. The verdict: conquest or survival. So, could 50 Vikings actually conquer the Ming dynasty? The honest answer is no, not permanently. They couldn't govern 100 million Chinese people. They couldn't hold a territory long term. They couldn't transform China into Scandinavia. But they could do something arguably greater. They could prove that no empire is invincible. They could expose the myth of unconquerability. They could demonstrate that courage and strategy beat numbers and resources. They could achieve legendary status that outlasts any kingdom. The Vikings didn't need to govern China. They needed to show it could be done. And in doing that, they changed history more than most emperors ever did. Your impossible mission is the same. You might not achieve total permanent victory over your empire-sized challenge, but you can prove it's not actually impossible. You can inspire others facing similar odds. You can become a legend that outlasts your lifespan. And isn't that better than playing it safe, never attempting the impossible, and dying with no story worth telling? Comment below, "I am Viking," if you're ready to charge your impossible mission. Then, tell me what empire you're attacking. The comments section becomes our war council where Vikings inspire Vikings. If this story awakened your inner berserker, share it with 3 people facing impossible odds. Vikings never raided alone. Your warband needs to see this. Subscribe if you want more historical battle wisdom applied to modern life warfare. Next video: 100 Mongols versus the Roman Legion. Cavalry versus infantry. The ultimate tactical matchup. Until the next impossible battle, fight like a Viking, think like a Viking, and if necessary, die like a Viking. Because that's how mortals achieve immortality. That's how impossible becomes possible. That's how 50 defeats millions through sheer refusal to accept defeat. The saga continues. Your saga begins now.